All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Before we get started, just a couple of the normal reminders. We will have time for questions at the end of the presentation. You can type those in by clicking the Q&A or chat section in the lower portion of your control panel. Feel free to chat between yourselves as well throughout. We will be posting a recording of the webinar on our blog. The link for that will be shown at the end. And if you'd like a PDF copy of the presentation, there will be a link to download that on that same post as the recording. If your question does not get answered today, or if you think of any others, please email our support inbox, which will be shown at the end as well. All right, so what is on the agenda for today? We are going to talk about creating your own personalized wellness plan. We will touch on where to start when you're creating a plan, taking those first steps, and staying motivated as you continue on your path. So before we get into the details, I want to take a second and explain kind of the why behind this webinar. Almost every day, our coaching team gets asked about creating a meal plan, exercise plan, or some sort of kind of a just tell me what to do kind of plan to help them make changes, right? And the reason we hesitate to just throw out any kind of cookie cutter generic plan for anyone is because behavior change and getting healthy for life is not a one-size-fits-all thing. Now, don't get me wrong. There are many structured meal and exercise plans out there that get results. And some of you may have found something that works great for you, which is fantastic. If we could give someone a meal, exercise, stress management, or sleep plan and know it would work for every single person we sent it to, we would do it, right? That would be amazing. We would be out of a job, but it would be for a good reason, right? But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. What works for one person may not be the best idea for the person right next to them. It might be because of limitations due to a health issue, it might be food allergies or even just food preferences, might be your job or family schedule, or really any other reason that you can think of. And just because something works now doesn't mean it will continue to work, right? Age changes our body, different circumstances changes our body, how it responds to our habits. So we have to continually check in on what we're doing to be sure that it's still the right approach for us. That's why we wanted to spend some time today really talking about how you can create your own wellness plan. If you take some time now to really dial in on what's going to work for you and your specific lifestyle, and then be able to update and change things easily because you're the one that created it, it's going to set you up for that long-term success that we want, which is what we're all looking for, right? So where do we start? Well, the best thing to do is to start by looking at where we are today. Many people tend to think, and I don't blame you, think, okay, let me just grab this diet plan or exercise plan, start it without really looking into the details and thinking about whether that's the best decision for me and my lifestyle. If you look at what you're doing now and choose realistic first steps, chances are you're going to be able to stick with whatever changes you make, and then you'll be able to build more easily on those changes as you go along. So let's start with your eating. Ask yourself, how do you feel overall with your eating? Scale of 1 to 10, how are those eating habits? 2, 8, whatever you think it is, just make a mental note or jot it down. Do the same thing with your exercise, your sleep, your stress management routine. Think about where you are in all of those areas. Once you have a handle on how you think you're currently doing, that next step is to decide where you want to focus your energy first. What's the most realistic area for what you want for you to focus on? Think about your schedule. Think about your overall goals when it comes to your health. And think about what you will actually commit to. What do you want to work on, right? We need to take those things into account when we're making changes, or it's going to be really hard to stick with. So is it your eating? Is it your activity? Making changes to that sleep schedule, finding more time to incorporate stress management techniques? And I'll tell you, it truly doesn't matter where you start. Anytime you're making improvements in any area of your health, it's going to be a good thing, right? And also, making changes in one area typically leads to positive things in other areas too. So if you work on your sleep, you'll likely have more energy and possibly to get in more activity, right? And your mood might be better to make better decisions with your eating. It's a snowball effect typically. So find a place to start. Does not matter where it is, just start. And you can definitely work on multiple areas at the same time. Just be mindful that you don't overwhelm yourself when making changes. Now, some of you may have done this to yourself in the past, right? You were super motivated, ready to go, which is fantastic, but maybe you did too much too soon. And before you knew it, you weren't doing anything you wanted to, right? That happens more often than I think we think too, right? So just be aware of how many things you're taking on at once. When you decide which area you want to start with, before you start to set any goals, I want you to think about your why. Why do you want to be healthier? Why do you want to change? This is one of the most significant and most often overlooked aspects of goal setting and goal achieving. If you really want to keep that motivation up to make the long lasting changes, you have to have that real reason to do it. So take some time, do some thinking, come up with a few of your most important motivators to help keep you on track, especially during those tough times. Okay, next step after you decide what area to focus on and you've got your why, time to set some goals, right? Like I mentioned before, you can have multiple areas that you're working on. Just don't go too crazy, especially starting out. You can always build on goals as you go. So if you want to work on nutrition and sleep, let's say, now's the time to set a couple goals to get you started. This is another area that can get lost when we just want to get to that end result, right? Taking time to sit and think about how you're going to get that result and planning a bit is extremely important. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this as we have other webinars that focus on setting goals. We actually did one last January. So if you're jump on our blog, you can look for that. But I just want to do a quick recap of how to set goals that will help keep you on track. You've probably heard of SMART goals. If you just say, I'm going to start eating better, or I'm going to start exercising, that doesn't really give you any direction or any action items or any first steps, right? And without that direction, you can get lost pretty quickly and those actions and stuff go away pretty quickly. That's why structuring your goals can really help get started. So let's run through real quick what a SMART goal is. So S stands for specific. This first letter pretty much encompasses all other letters to me. So specific means putting in as much detail as you can. The who, what, where, when, and why, if you will. So I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week at 5:30 when I get off work, and I'm going to do 10 minutes on the treadmill at a 2 incline. And you've already got your why established, hopefully, from before. So again, as specific as you can so that you know exactly what that step is. It makes it easier because you don't have to decide later what it is. You know exactly what you're going to do. The M stands for measurable. So this is how you track your progress. In the goal I just mentioned, that's the 3 times a week, and that's the 10 minutes on the treadmill at a 2 incline. As you progress, this is the part of the goal that can change, right? So you could say, okay, got my 10 minutes on the treadmill consistently for 2 weeks. Next Monday, I'm going to try for 15 minutes, or I'm going to do an incline of 3 instead of 2. It's really important to have a way to track yourself and then be able to increase that goal. So you have something to work for, so you can see that progression and that you're making, which can help that motivation, right? Couple different things for A. First is achievable or attainable. Some people will say too. This just means, like we've talked about, be smart with your goals. Don't say, I'm going to go to the gym for an hour every day if that's not realistic for you to achieve. Starting small, starting attainable, so you can see that early success will help motivate you, help get those habits established, and then you will increase that progress as you go, right? You can always increase that goal later. So start off with an attainable goal and work from there. Some people use action-based as the A, which simply means that you're going to set a goal that gives you action to do, right? That's the go to the gym. That's the treadmill. If your goal was just, I want to get active, you have nothing to take action on, so that first step doesn't exist. A couple different uses for the R as well. First one is realistic, which is the same as the achievable for A, right? Just be realistic with what you want to try to do. Don't set yourself up for failure. The other R that some people use is relevant. Make sure your goal is relevant to your life right now. How does your goal line up with your current lifestyle and your long-term goals? Because our life situations change, right? And sometimes our goals need to change with them. So something to be mindful of. And then lastly, we've got the T, which is time-based or time-bound. Setting yourself a time frame to achieve goals is important because it helps you stick to that schedule, right? So with our example goal, that time is just the days that you'll go to the gym and how long you'll go for. So you've got that specific thing. You could also set a goal to increase your current running time, but with like a date as a deadline to increase. So for example, I'll be running on the treadmill for 25 minutes at a time by March 1st. This is a longer term goal, which forces you to set more short term goals to get there. Now, you'll obviously want to gradually increase that time so you can make that 25 minutes by March. So you'll be more mindful and work harder to get to that time by that date, ideally. If you simply said, I'll be running 25 minutes on the treadmill by whenever, now that whenever could be March 1st, but it could also be next December 1st or never because you never increased your time because you didn't really have a reason to. You're like, oh, okay, I'm set. This is what I'm going to do. Just be careful of this part of the goal. Again, make sure it's realistic to achieve if you're looking for, specific timelines and time frames. Make sure you're thinking about all the aspects of it. Okay, so that was a quick recap of how to kind of get started, set some goals, kind of the mental side of it. So let's talk about some specific examples to help you envision your own plan that works for you and your specific schedule and circumstances. So I'm going to start with nutrition. This is probably the biggest request that we get, right? Creating a meal plan for people. But if you spend a little bit of time creating your own, I can almost guarantee you that you'll stick to it better long term than if someone else creates it for you. And it's not as hard as it seems, I promise. So first, what I want you to do is look at your schedule. So what meals do you actually want to have planned out? How many is realistic to plan, let's say, each week? Maybe you just focus on your lunches at work first. Maybe you just do suppers, or maybe it's just weekend meals. Whatever your goal is, just make sure you know what the plan is going into it. I always recommend starting small and working from there, of course, but you do what you feel is the best for your situation. If you feel like you can plan everything, go for it. And again, you can always back off on that too. So do what you think works for you. After that step is to do some recipe hunting. This is the fun part, right? Think about the foods and ingredients that you like, what makes sense for the time of year, what the people in your household like. Now, I know that can get a little dicey, right? But do the best that you can, and find some meals that maybe for your kids, for example. What I'll do is I'll have a meal that I know they like, and then I'll have enough for leftovers the next night, but I'll make a different one for myself and my husband for that night, so we can all semi be happy. Again, I know it's not perfect, but we do what we can. Now, again, the goal here is to have healthier options in that meal plan, right? So just keep that in mind. I'm just going to throw that out there. But the great thing is you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. There are literally millions of sites to help you out and billions of recipes out there waiting for you to try them. We have some meal planning and recipe sites and links on our own Pinterest page to get you started. I threw that link up here, and we'll add that to the blog post as well, so you can actually click on it. But so many of the sites out there already have organized the foods and meals for you too. And you can just do a simple search of what you like. You can search by dietary restrictions, right? You can search by preferences of different foods, by main food ingredients like chicken, beans, beef, whatever you have. You can search by ways to cook, slow cooker, one pan meals, instant pot, things like that. You can search by number of ingredients. It's actually incredible how helpful people out there are, because they've done all of the hard work for you. You just have to pick and choose which ones you want to do. And on that note, don't forget to ask your friends, your family, your coworkers for recipes they've actually tried. And again, throw some good sites out that you all use for recipes in the chat too. Get those ideas flowing. That's what it's about, sharing ideas, finding what works for you, taking pieces from all different places to create your own meal plan. So gather some recipes, think about how you want to organize them so you have an easy way to access the ones you like and want to try as well. Pinterest is great for this, and I'm sure there are many others that do it well as well. Next step is to make that grocery list. Figure out the recipes you're going to make, get organized, get ready to go to the store. Having a grocery list is super helpful when you're looking to stick to healthy options and not get sidetracked by just wandering around, right? Think about sales and reusing main ingredients that you can just buy in bulk when you're planning your week too, if you're looking at that budget. A lot of times you can order online and it's ready for you, so you don't have to worry about, again, those temptations and different things like that. So just little things to think about when you're going to the store. And honestly, that's really all there is to it. Little bit of organizing to begin with, but that will get easier and easier the more you do it. And then you can build up your recipes as you go. So you'll have a ton of options to keep things fresh and not boring, which is a big reason that specific diet plans fail, right? People get bored or they get sick of the same foods every week, or they don't have access to something at some point. This way you can be flexible and have different routes to go if needed. You can also look into meal prepping or freezer meals to plan even farther ahead too. So lots of different ways that you can create that plan for yourself. Again, a little bit of work at the beginning, right? But it's worth it because then it gets easier and you can just plug different recipes in and find what works best for you. One last point to make here before we move on. I mentioned in the beginning that I know some of you have tried specific meal plans and diets and they've worked for you, which, like I said, is fantastic. There's nothing wrong with doing what works for you at that moment. But again, just know that if you do try something and you decide it's not for you or it stops working for you for whatever reason, you can still use some of the principles of the things that you've tried. You don't have to give everything up. Nutrition is not an all or nothing thing, which can be hard for some people to get past. I totally understand that. But you don't need to be perfect to be healthier when it comes to eating. So, for example, the Mediterranean diet is extremely healthy and has lots of healthy components. Lots of research-based things have shown that it's one of the healthiest diets out there, but it's not realistic for a lot of people to do 100% of the time. So if people are just, I think people think, nah, well, I'll try something else. But no, you can take components from that. You can take recipes. You can do a search for the Mediterranean diet recipes. Pick and choose ones that you will realistically eat, plug them into your plan, and then take something from another diet or another thing that you've seen that you want to try and go from there. Looking up recipes is something that will always be there, right? Find some small things to change each week, each month, whatever you want to do, and just build from there. So set that SMART goal and get to it. Again, progress over perfection. You do not need to be perfect when it comes to eating in any areas of your health. So speaking of other areas here, let's chat about creating an exercise routine, as this is the second most requested item that we get, right? Let me preface this part by saying this is geared towards more of you that don't have as much experience with exercise. Exercise plans can get a lot more in depth. So if you're at a point where you're doing exercise regularly, but want to look more into specific things and ideas, personal trainers probably likely your best bet as your next step. But you can still think about the things we talk about today and see if you can tweak some things here and there to keep that routine fresh or to continue to progress. But if you've decided that you want to set some goals with exercise, let's look at those steps to get started. First, we're going to do the same thing as with your nutrition. You're going to look at your schedule. How much time can you devote to exercise each week? You should be willing to prioritize it, right? But you also have to be realistic about how much time you'll have. Also, ask yourself where you're going to work out, at home, at a gym, at work, at a friend's house. This will determine that time too, if you need to factor in a commute somewhere, when you're going to do it, something like that. You also need to figure out what equipment you have. That will determine what workouts you can do. Side note on that, though, you can do so much without any equipment. So do not let that be a barrier to you on the exercise side specifically. Next question is to ask yourself, what are your goals when it comes to exercise, right? Is it just overall health? Is it weight loss? Is it building muscle? Is it increasing your cardiovascular endurance, that heart health, working on balance, flexibility? Those are all kind of the main reasons people tend to work out. So think about what your main goals are, as that will kind of determine what workouts you might want to do in research. So speaking of workouts, once you have the thought about those first questions, time to do that fun finding again, just like with the nutrition. Find some workouts you can do. Again, just like nutrition, keep it simple here. You don't have to do it all yourself. There are so many people who have created awesome workouts for every scenario. So do some asking around again, searching what interests you to find out what works with your schedule to keep that routine consistent. Again, our Pinterest page has some things to get started with, some ideas, but there are new free workouts and new awesome instructors coming out of the woodwork all the time. YouTube specifically, I'll put a plug in for that, has some amazing instructors, amazing channels that are free. For the vast majority of the workouts are absolutely free. And you can search by length of workout, type of workout, body part, equipment type. Again, those restrictions that you may have due to health concerns, you can search by workouts with that too. One note though, if you do have health concerns or history that may require some modifications, make sure you're talking with your doctor before starting exercise routines, even if the workout says it's for a specific population. Just be very careful because again, they don't know you specifically. So just be mindful of that. And then set your SMART goal and be on your way. It's the same thing, right? Find what works for you, keep it consistent, keep it fresh with the millions of ideas that are at your disposal, and go from there. The last thing I really want to emphasize with exercise is just start. So many people end up spending so much time worrying about, oh, should I do that exercise? But I want to have those goals. Should I do it? Is it going to help me with my end goal? That they end up with decision fatigue, right? And then we end up not doing anything. With exercise, especially if you're not doing much right now, the important thing is to get started. I guarantee you that any type of exercise is going to benefit you in some way. You can always progress. You can always change as you go. You can always get harder and change the type. But if you establish that habit now, that's our key to success. All right, per the norm, I'm not going to do sleep and stress management enough justice because most of the time people want to talk about nutrition and exercise first. But honestly, many health journeys could benefit immensely from more people putting an emphasis in these areas. So just be mindful of that. We do have other webinars that go more in depth on each of these topics to help you build your wellness plan. So take a look on our blog for those. But with these areas, the structure is similar, right? Look at your current habits, find some small steps you can take. So stress management, I like to talk about making a stress toolbox for yourself. That's simply having things that you know help you deal with stress, ready to go and built into your daily routine, even when you're not stressed. So deep breathing, meditation, exercise, journaling are just a few of the options you could have in that toolbox, and look to create a consistent routine with some of those things. So again, that you're doing them when you're not stressed, so your body's already set, they're already equipped to deal with stress that does come up. For sleep, just, finding 2 or 3 small things that can change that sleep hygiene. So setting a reminder for yourself to go to bed 15 minutes earlier, shutting off your electronics at a specific time so you can wind down mentally and physically. Changing your environment, like looking at room darkening curtains, new pillows, lowering the temperature in your bedroom, things like that. Creating a calm routine before bed, which can include some of those stress management toolbox items as well. So kind of double dipping there. And again, setting SMART goals around the steps you want to take to help keep you on track is key to keeping that momentum, keeping up that success. So that brings me to my last point here, keeping it going. Again, we're motivated right away. If you have a lot of times those meal plans, those exercise plans, we're ready to go, we're gung ho, we do it. And then something happens, gets us off track, and we find ourselves falling off, right? And that's okay. That's going to happen. But things like tracking your progress is key to, first of all, making appropriate changes along the way that can help you continue on that path to keep that motivation up for things and finding things that work best for you, right? Look at those ratings you gave yourself at the beginning of each area and check in with those regularly. Are they going in the right direction? Hopefully so. If not, there's your next opportunity. Also, think about all the aspects of how you feel when you check in, not just the scale or looking at what you know to be good eating and exercise habits. Think about how you feel, your energy, your mood. Things like that are great barometers of your overall health, better than the scale, honestly, most of the time, because when you feel better, that's your motivation to keep going, right? That's what's going to keep you going to the gym or doing those workouts or eating better is how you feel and how you look, obviously, too. But that's secondary, should be secondary to how you feel. And then celebrate your wins, even if you think those wins are small. Being motivated all the time is hard enough as it is, right? But if you look at the positives that you're doing for yourself, it's going to give you a more positive mindset because we're looking at that, right? Leading to even more good decisions. We build on those. Again, that snowball effect. When we see a good thing, we're going to notice the good things. Focus on that positive as much as you can. So if it's having one cookie instead of two at the work event in the next month, if it's going one more minute on the treadmill, doing one more squat, I don't care what it is. If it's a single step in the right direction, celebrate that. Don't be afraid to celebrate because it's going to make you happier and it's going to make you stick with it better. Because here's the thing as I wrap it up, right? Your health journey will never end. Our journeys never end until we're no longer living, right? Every day you make thousands of choices that get you closer to living your best life or further away from living your best life. Now, you're not going to make the best choice many of those times, and that's okay. The goal with your own journey and to create your own personalized wellness plan is to make the better choice when you can and build on those choices to feel the best that you can, to live the best possible life for yourself. And the best way to do that is to personalize your own journey, take your own path, invest in yourself, and live your own best life. All right, I will pause it for questions here in a minute, but do want to talk about the upcoming webinars starting in January. We're going to talk about the power of positive thinking. I just mentioned it here. That was one example of focusing on those positives and how it can help you in your health journey. So we'll dive into that a lot deeper. And then February, we're going to talk about just some exercise hot topics, different things out there, different things people are doing. And we'll talk about some ways that you can work those into your routine possibly. If you do have lifestyle rewards and do have to answer questions, here is what those questions will be. You can download the slides on our blog post here when we get that up in the next, hopefully 24, 48 hours or so. So if you want to screenshot it quick, go ahead. Again, most of you will not have to answer the questions or they'll be put on there for you if you're looking in the pathways. But here's where they are if you need them. And then here's our contact information. So we are on all of the fun social media. Again, I need to put our Pinterest page on here because lot of good stuff on there. But again, we will add the link to the blog post for that. We are on social media, and then you can watch those past webinars, register for upcoming webinars. We have all of the 2025 webinars posted, and you're able to register for all of them, I believe, on the blog. So look for that. There's a separate post that has those on there. And then you can always give us a call. You can call and set up a time, or you can shoot us an email to chat about any health-related items you are interested in chatting about. Our coaches would love to help you out. All right, let me see.